This deck is called Shield Breaker. It has its origin in a fan suggestion in the comment section under one of my videos. The commenter called this deck idea Shield Breaker. The heart and soul of this deck is the level 5, Warrior type, Earth Attributes, Vanilla Monster, Millennium Shield. Millennium Shield has 0 attack and 3000 defense points, which we want to utilize to a great extent. Almost identical to Millennium Shield, aside from its name, is Labyrinth Wall. Instead of being a warrior type though, it's a rock type monster, which is disadvantageous to us, because we play a card in this build in weapon change that only supports warrior and machine type monsters. I come back to weapon change in a second. So overall, we play 4 tribute monsters in this deck. Now we have several ways to summon them onto the field. One way is to hard draw them and perform a tribute sum or tribute set. We can either tribute one of our own monsters or use Soul Exchange. And tribute one opposing monster instead. A second way to properly normal sum or set them is by means of cost down, and simply downgrade their level by 2 temporarily, effectively eliminating their tribute requirement. A third, and in most cases preferable option, is to float into Millennium Shield or Labyrinth Wall with Giant Red. As both are Earth attribute monsters and have low attack. Monster cards with similar stats, which are also of Earth attributes and thus can be accessed from the deck by floating into them with Giant Reds, are Big Shield Gardna, and Golem the Moving Fortress. Both do not need a tribute when being normal summoned, and Big Shield Gardna also has the benefit in that it can lure out a Nobleman of Crossout and negate it with his own effect. Golem the Moving Fortress, by paying 800 life points, is able to attack the life points directly. Moreover, both are of warrior and machine type respectively, which is important for the continuous spell weapon change. When we have our setup of 1 face-up wall plus a face-up weapon change during our standby phase, we can pay 700 life points and switch the attack and defense stats of our walling monster, until the end of the opponent's next turn, after which we may pay 700 life points again to switch their stats for another whole turn. This can be repeated turn after turn. Another valid option is to beat down the opponent with our defensive walls, being possible thanks to the old school card Shield and Sword. Which is also reflected in the naming of this deck. Shield and Sword switches the stats of all monsters until our end phase, so all of our defensively strong walls could attack once, but would then be vulnerable to attacks on the opponent's next turn. This implies that we should only implement Shield and Sword to finish the opponent off, or it should be used in combination with Labyrinth of Nightmare, a continuous trap card that changes the battle positions of all of the turn player's monsters during his end phase. With it, our walling monsters can safely attack and are placed back in defense mode at the end phase of our turn. Labyrinth of Nightmare conflicts with weapon change though, in that when using weapon change on one of our monsters, that monster will have high attack and low defense, and will be placed in defense mode during our end phase, thanks to Labyrinth of Nightmare, and will stay in defense with a low defense value during our opponent's turn, prone to getting run over. So we have to choose which continuous card we want to implement for our beatdown strategy. If we have both cards in our hands, I would 100% of the time prefer Weapon Change over Labyrinth of Nightmare, unless we have multiple copies of Shield and Sword in our hand too. Or if we control multiple walling monsters and have at least one copy of Shield and Sword in our hands. In general, Weapon Change is rather there for the grindy games, and Shield and Sword, in conjunction with Labyrinth of Nightmare, is therefore a great push. The Shallow Grave can revive one monster from our grave in face-down defense position. However, the opponent also gets to revive one monster from his grave in defense position too. As we play Giant Reds, I included one Exiled Force for spot removal of problematic monsters. This deck is Earth attribute based. By banishing one Earth monster from our grave, we can summon Gigantes, a 1900 beater with a heavy storm-like effect after being destroyed in battle. Since all but one of our monsters in Gigantes have low attack values, the searcher Sangan can search them all. Of course, we also play the Trinity, Pot of Greed, Graceful Charity, and Delinquent Duo. One Mystical Space Typhoon to clear floodgates or to turn off our own Labyrinth of Nightmare. Rounding off this deck profile are Mirror Force, Torrential Tribute, Ring of Destruction, and instead of Call of the Haunted, I opted to play Soul Ressurection, which revives a vanilla monster in face-up defense position. That's it for this deck profile. As always, the decklist can be found in the video description. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye!